Thank you, Rose. Several years ago, my wife and I were at a convention where Bill Gates was the speaker. And despite all of the incredible technology, we watched, of all people, Bill Gates pull a piece of paper out of his pocket to give his presentation. So I'm not going to feel the least bit guilty that I don't have anything on an iPad or my phone or anything else. Several months ago, when Rose asked me if I'd speak tonight, I really wondered why me. Actually, what I really thought was, why would I want a middle-aged white dude who's never been to Kenya to come and speak to the organization? But instead, I just politely asked Rose, what would you like me to speak about? And I'm not sure that I understood everything that she said, but it was pretty clear she wasn't going to let me get out of it. And she did point out the fact that, as she's already mentioned, Rose and I are both members of Rotary International and the Rotary Club of Fishhawk Riverview. And while I am definitely not the best person to articulate the needs and opportunities in Kenya, as I begin my 34th year as a Rotarian, I'm reasonably qualified to highlight some of the milestones and best practices of Rotary International, the Rotary Foundation, and our Rotary Club of Fishhawk Riverview. The origins of Rotary date back to 1905, when a young attorney in Chicago thought to try to somehow replicate the honesty with which business was conducted in a small town he had grown up in the late 1800s in Wallingford, Vermont. Attorney Paul Harris invited 3 of his friends, each from different backgrounds and different vocations, to meet to discuss how they might share this interest of doing honest business with each other. They rotated whose offices they were going to meet in each week, and the idea of Rotary was born. The original premise was that we're going to all pledge ourselves to the highest ethics and integrity in our business. We're going to, almost like a business networking group, transact business with each other. And the idea caught on very quickly, and what even in 1905 was a very bustling, very, at times disingenuous, difficult, and cutthroat place to do business, Chicago, Illinois. Perhaps some things never change. Rotary historians debate how did Rotary actually transition to service? What was the first project? And the fact is that in 1907, just a couple years into the first Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Chicago, someone said that a friend of theirs who was a traveling minister out of the country, outside of Chicago, his horse had died. And that meant that he could not tend to the country churches or the more distant parishioners. And very quickly, Rotarians in Chicago all ponied up, so to speak, some money, and they quickly raised enough money to replace this traveling minister's horse. And just the feeling of service, the people realized, oh my goodness, when we bring people of business and industry together with diverse backgrounds and unique vocations, and maybe just as importantly, people of unique resources, we can really make a difference. And that inspired them to begin looking for service opportunities. So that same year, founder Paul Harris happened to be at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he overheard people discussing the need for public bathrooms, or comfort stations as they were called, in downtown Chicago. And at the time, if you were a male, you went into a bar, or you went into an alley, or you just found the side of a building. If you were a female, it was extremely difficult, unless you were spending money in a department store, to find a public restroom, and thus it was difficult to keep people downtown and patronizing businesses. So Rotarians got together, and because they tended to be not only resourceful but well-connected, they were able to procure a $20,000 grant for the first official Rotary project to build comfort stations or public bathrooms in downtown Chicago. And they remained for decades. 117 years since that club was founded. Today, 1.4 million Rotarians are part of over 40,000 Rotary clubs in 200 different countries and geographical regions. Rotary exists pretty much everywhere in the free world, and honestly, it's underground in some places in the not-so-free world. The mission of Rotary International is to provide service to others, to promote integrity and advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through our fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. The Rotary Foundation, which has a story all to itself for another day, has expanded to concentrate in 7 areas of focus: peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, maternal and child health, clean water and sanitation, economic and community development, basic education and literacy, and most recently, environmental protection. Coincidentally, I read an article just this morning about a combined Rotary and United Nations Environment Program, where they had the first phase of their Adopt a River program had removed nearly 150 tons of waste from roughly 20 kilometers of rivers in Kenya and Ethiopia. And yet, with all of this progress, Rotary remains 1.4 million members, a group of citizens, each with different backgrounds, skills, and resources, all of good character, and all pledged to the highest ethical and moral standards. Charity Navigator, the online service that evaluates charities for their stewardship and responsibility with handling public funds, consistently rates the Rotary Foundation 4 stars, and our model for donations, in which contributions are held in escrow for 3 years, and the earnings are used to pay a majority of administrative and fundraising expenses, means that those expenses are minimal and ensures that nearly all contributions to the Rotary Foundation go directly to our benevolent programs. Responsibility is critical, as you can imagine, when annual fundraising for the Rotary Foundation is closing in on $500 million, and yes, that's billion with a B. This astounding figure does not take into account millions of volunteer hours that Rotarians donate each year to a staggering number of service projects. The largest single initiative that Rotary has undertaken has been our decades-long quest to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. Our progress includes the 2020 declaration of a polio-free continent of Africa. And despite recent flare-ups around the world that our response has been very aggressive to deploy additional vaccine and resources, right now only Afghanistan and Pakistan remain endemic polio countries. Through the Rotary Foundation, Rotarians lead global and local sustainable projects all over the world, not only improving the lives of people today, but also ensuring a better life for their children and grandchildren. With a general administrative structure, individual Rotary clubs enjoy tremendous autonomy to identify community needs and decide how they want to prioritize and engage. Rose and I, as I've mentioned, are both members of the Rotary Club of Fishhawk Riverview. That club was chartered just over 20 years ago, and our mission is as follows. Promoting the Rotary ideal of service above self, we pursue the alleviation of poverty, illiteracy, hunger, and disease. We are committed to the highest standards of leadership and integrity in serving our local and world communities. We achieve the greatest impact through membership engagement, education, fellowship, and of course, fun. Our club foundation practices have evolved over the years, but we've always remained focused on service and integrity. We have no paid staff. We all pay our own way. 100% of club operating expenses come directly from membership dues. We consider donations to the Rotary Foundation as a duty of membership. All of our members contribute at least $100 a year to the Rotary Foundation, and many give more. We also recognize our responsibility as stewards of community-raised funds. 100% of proceeds from public fundraising events go to our charitable